Hello and welcome. My name is Shaira Hussein Mohammed and I will be presenting the Economics 110 video course. So EKN 110 is an introduction to economics where you learn the basic concepts of economics and also how to apply these concepts to real life situations, okay? So we will be looking at what we will be doing in each lesson. There will be 3 different lessons consisting of 3 or 4 chapters each. We will be looking at what each chapter entails, okay? So in lesson 1, we do chapter 1, 2, and 3. Chapter 1 looks at the definition of economics. It's basically an introduction to economics. So you learn the basic concepts. So you start off with the definition of economics. You go on to the economic problem. You learn the 4 different types of economics. And also you learn about budget lines and the production possibility curve, okay? Then in chapter 2, you look at the different types of economic systems that you get. You get 3 different types of economic systems: command, market, and mixed economic systems. So you learn about them, you learn what they are, you learn how those economic systems work, and you also learn how they are different from each other. Okay. Then you also look at the circular flow. So this here you learn how to draw the circular flow, you learn the different participants in the circular flow, and you learn the different types of flows in your circular flow or in your economy. Chapter 3 is an introduction to demand and supply. So here you learn the definition of demand and supply. You learn how to draw the demand and supply curves, okay? And you also learn how to apply situations, or you learn how different situations affect the demand and supply graphs, okay? So what shifts the demand and supply graphs? How does price affect demand and supply? All these kinds of things, okay? In lesson 2, we look at chapter 4 and chapter 5 as well as chapter 6. Here we're looking at the elasticity of demand and supply. So you look at how does demand and supply react to a change in your price. Okay, so this also includes the total revenue test, cross elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand. So how does a change in income affect demand? Consumer surplus, producer surplus, and efficiency losses. Chapter 5 looks at utility or satisfaction. How do we measure utility? So between the 2 different types of utility that you get, cardinal and ordinal utility, how do you measure them? The one you're using indifference curves, so you're going to learn how to draw an indifference curve, and you're also going to learn how to derive the demand curve from your indifference curve. Then chapter 6, you're looking at costs, so you look at explicit and implicit costs, short run and long run costs, marginal costs, and economies and diseconomies of scale. Lesson 3 looks at chapter 7, 8, 10, and 11. Now, chapter 7 and chapter 6 are very, very important modules, or chapters rather. Most students struggle with chapter 7, the understanding of chapter 7, and also a little bit with chapter 6 when it comes to exam questions and all of that. So chapter 6 and chapter 7 are linked. So in chapter 7, we look at market models. So you look at the different types of markets that you get. So you look at the pure competition market, pure monopoly market, monopolistic market, right? You learn how to draw the graphs, and in the graphs you have your cost curves, okay? And what those cost curves mean, that's what you're going to be learning. Chapter 8 looks at wages, wage rates, and labor earnings. So you look at the demand and supply of labor, the role of productivity, the purely competitive labor market. Again, in your labor market, you have your market models, so like pure competition, pure monopoly, monopolistic competition. So you look at those different ones, and you have your monopsony model, bilateral monopsony model, wage differentials, and why demand and supply conditions differ in different labor markets, okay? So chapter 8 looks at your labor market and wages. Chapter 10 discusses money. So what is money? What are the properties of money? What is the functions of money and the different forms of money that you get? Okay. Chapter 10 also looks at the demand for money, equilibrium interest rate, the South African Reserve Bank, and the monetary policy. So here you look at the functions of the South African Reserve Bank. You look at the 2 different policies that they use in the economy to make sure that the economy is running smoothly and it's stabilized. So the tools of monetary policy, and you look at expansionary versus restrictive monetary policy. So that's chapter 10, which deals with money. Then in chapter 11, you look at the fractional reserve system. So you learn about this fractional reserve system. You learn about how a bank, a single commercial bank, comes about. And you also learn about the monetary multiplier. Now, the monetary multiplier is a very important concept. So we will be doing a lot of examples on that. Okay, so those are the three different lessons that we will be doing and what they entail. Now, how will you be tested in Economics 110? So in your test, you will have a multiple choice section and you're going to have a long question section, right? So most of the time, even in the MCQ, you have to apply the knowledge that you have to a situation, okay? So EKN 110 is tested using an application method where you will be required to apply the knowledge learned to different scenarios, okay? They test you. They love to test you on the drawing of graphs. So they give you a situation and you have to apply the knowledge to the situation and you have to draw a graph. Okay. Yeah. Now, study tips for EKN 110. I always say that you should understand the concept rather than just learning it off by heart. Because then you can apply your knowledge to any situation, okay, which makes it easier. Then also always go through past paper questions, because then you know how they're going to phrase the question and you have an idea of how you should answer the questions. I always say to my students that they should think of your question in a logical manner, right? So if they ask you a question, think, okay, how would I, if for example it has to do with consumers, how will I as a consumer be affected by the situation that they have given me? So try to put yourself in the situation either as a consumer or a producer and try to think logically, okay? Because economics makes sense if you really think about it. Then also I always say don't doubt yourself, okay? If you think that the answer is A and you already put it down, leave it at that. Don't overthink your answers. Don't write too much. Just answer what they're asking you rather than just going on, because you're going to be wasting time in your test that way. So don't doubt yourself, because you probably know the answer but you're overthinking it. Okay, so I hope this video course will help you, and thank you.